Hey guys, I really hope you're doing well and I hope you can hear me. So today I got a video about immunology. I'm gonna hopefully go through some important questions and some questions that he often fails people on because I feel immunology is one of the smallest subjects there is. It's like only 50 questions, and but it's also one of the questions that students often fail on, but it's easily preventable. And hopefully this video gives you a basic idea on how to improve or how to prevent this from happening. So let's go. I'm gonna try and give you some mnemonics and some questions and go over some topics that he really likes, and some rescue questions basically he asks and sources and everything. Let's go. So, some tips, first of all, is try to perfect the first 25 questions, because when you go to the exam, he'll give you two sets. One is from the first 25, one is from the second 25. So try and learn the first 25 questions more, because he really cares about your first questions. Because if you fail your first question, you're definitely gonna fail. Like, he's gonna fail you. Like, most probably he's gonna fail you because he really cares about your first question. It's been with like 8 of my friends that they've done the first question really good, and then the second question they've done really bad, and then he's been like, okay, it's fine, I'm still gonna pass. But if it's the other way around and you really do bad in the first question, so yeah, I mean, ideally it's best if you do the 50 questions properly, but if you have less time or something, try to focus on the first 25 more, next 25 a little bit less. Then focus on the clinical perspective. Think about what his clinical uh, perspective is like, not his, but like generally think about the clinical signs, clinical features. uh, don't go into the nitty gritty details, but think about the particular clinical stuff. Then we have the lectures. Okay, definitely try to use the lectures and try to actually be present in the lectures, because he remembers you and he remembers you from the lectures. And I think it'll be really helpful, and he cares if you go to the lecture. So definitely be in the lecture, try to go there. And if you haven't been, then at least use the lectures. I think it's a perfect source. And of course, the RIMSA notes are good also. And then we have learned the clonal selection and immunoglobulins are these two questions, question number 40 and 20. Very important. I cannot stress how much importance these two questions are. So if you get one of these questions that says favorite, he's going to go all out details into it. So try to learn these as properly as you can. And yeah, try to do them properly. And you can, use them for other questions as well. So osmosis is for hypersensitivity, which is one of the most important basic topics. I think I used osmosis. There's an osmosis video, and it's really good. So I highly recommend it. For the last few lab questions, I used Shomu's Biology, which is a YouTube channel. I think it's really good for this agglutination and all these things. It's really good. So try and see that. Now let's go over some questions which he really likes. Number one is Wiskott-Aldrich syndrome. It's one of the very important questions that he likes, and it's X-linked disease caused by mutation in WASP. WASP is Wiskott-Aldrich syndrome protein. This protein is involved in the cytoskeleton development responses. Okay, so cytoskeleton dependent responses. Now, what happens to the patient? Okay, first I'll tell you, and then I'll give you a mnemonic. So he gets immunodeficiency, thrombocytopenia, eczema, and recurrent infections. As you can see in this person here, it's X-linked, so it happens only in males, obviously. And yeah, it's how do I remember this? Is by this waiter. So waiter is Wiskott-Aldrich. W and A is Wiskott-Aldrich, and I is immunodeficiency, T is thrombocytopenia, E is eczema, R is recurrent infections. So X waiter is X-linked diseases, Wiskott-Aldrich, immunodeficiency, thrombocytopenia, eczema, and recurrent infections. So this is what he's going to ask you. Anything in red is what he's going to ask you. He's going to be like, okay, what are the clinical features of Wiskott-Aldrich syndrome? So you're going to say these things, right? And these are all rescue questions. Anything he can ask you, even though you don't have these questions, right? So yeah. Next, we have DiGeorge syndrome. DiGeorge syndrome, there's two ways of remembering. One is di, which is two. Di means there's two. So 22, chromosome 22 microdeletion is what's happening when it's 2. Or another way of remembering is 234, which is 2 is because of chromosome 22 microdeletion. What happens with that microdeletion is 3 and 4. The third and the fourth pharyngeal pouch is not developed, basically. I'm really proud of this, my own mnemonic. So 2, 3, 4, meaning that 2, 22, chromosome 22 is being affected. 3 and 4 because the third and the fourth pharyngeal pouch is not developing. What happens when these pharyngeal pouches don't develop? Catch. CATCH, okay? Cardiac defects, fallout tetralogy or interrupted aortic arch. We have abnormal facies, which is these abnormal face basically, and it's hypertelorism, which is, you can see the distance between their eyes are really a lot, and they're like looking on to other sides, but their distance is a lot. Another thing is microagnathia, which is the size of the jaw is really reduced. It's really small, as you can see here in both the cases. And then we have lower posterior ear. So the ears are basically behind and more towards the lower side. So as you can see here. And thymic hypoplasia. So he likes to pair this question up with like where the thymus is present for some reason. And it's basically present in the anterior superior mediastinum and between the lungs. So he asks that a lot. Cleft palate is one of the issues that can happen, and hypopituitarism. And what happens with hypopituitarism? Low calcium levels. So if he asks you, what are the clinical features? You have to remember Catch 234. Okay, for DiGeorge's Catch 234, what are the clinical, I don't know, biochemistry you do? You check for the calcium level. Always remember, you check for the calcium level. Okay, moving on. We have, what are the symptoms of immunoglobulin deficiency? Susceptibility to infection by encapsulated bacteria. Yes, so this is really important. He keeps asking this. If there's a immunoglobulin deficiency, what happens? Like I said in the beginning, the immunoglobulins he really cares about. So remember that if there's a person with immunoglobulin deficiency, he has more chances of getting bacteria, pneumococcus, hemophilus, and remember MOPS from Sketchy, meningitis, otitis media, pneumonia, sinusitis. This is MOPS from Sketchy, from strep pneumo. I think this was their MOPS. So yeah, all these can happen. Again, I'll try to link this presentation in the link below. Next, we have some previous questions. What he asked is, what is the principle of vaccination against tetanus? It's toxoid vaccination. What is the principle of vaccination against Haemophilus influenza, and why? So we actually conjugated with a protein. And why do we conjugate protein? Because in children under 2 years of age, if it's a polysaccharide, like in this case, if it's a polysaccharide antigen, it's not reacting in children. In children under 2 years old, it doesn't react. So it actually protects against meningitis. Okay. What is the manifestation of the defect of terminal complement components? Susceptibility to bacterial infection, mainly meningococcal meningitis. Okay. Repeated angioedemas. He can ask you like, why does repeated angioedemas happen? And this can be because of two reasons. I didn't write the other one. It's number one is because of lack of this one. This is complement C1 inhibitor. If there's a decreased amount of C1 inhibitors, C1 won't be inhibited. Complement system will keep being activated, and there'll be more angioedemas. Another reason is hereditary angioedema. If you have hereditary angioedema, there's more chances of repeated angioedemas. Like I said, think clinical perspective in this case as well. If he might not ask you, okay, recurrent acute abdomen. He might ask you, okay, if some patient comes with recurrent acute abdomen, why is it necessary that an immunologist should be involved? And you should say because it could be hereditary angioedema. So that's why immunologists should also be involved. Okay, now toxic cells in the human body is eosinophils. Half-life of immunoglobulin is 3 to 4 weeks. These are just factual, so he's going to skip through. Pneumocystis pneumonia, he's going to ask, okay, which cells do you check for pneumocystis pneumonia? You're going to say lymphocytes. Number of amino acids in the antigen epitope, 5 to 7. Okay. Now, okay, this slide I think is specifically very, very important. He asks, I think, almost everyone something from here. He asked me as well. I remember something. He's like, okay, interleukin, you have to know these interleukins, interferon gammas, unfortunately, but you have to know, okay, Th1 is interleukin 2, interferon gamma, TNF alpha, whatever, TNF beta, whatever. You have to know these. Like with this, it becomes this, whatever. So Th0 becomes this, interleukin 1, all these, you have to know them. What happens here? This is from the lecture, by the way, both these slides. So please, please, please learn this and remember this. It's very important. Okay. Other than that, this is also from the lecture, and nobody ever told us, but actually we do have to know the names of the drugs. Unfortunately, we have to know the names of the monoclonal antibodies. This is from the lecture as well. And one of my colleagues got asked this, and he knew that anti-CD20 is for B cells, for example, but he didn't know rituximab, for example. So yeah, I think it's really important to know these drugs like anti-CD20s, rituximab. It's for B cell, like lymphoma, leukemia, etc. Anti-CD52 is for T cell lymphoma. Monoclonal antibody is ERBB2, HER2. All these things I think is really factual if you memorize them. I think a few days before your exam, just go through this one. PD1 is nivolumab, CTLA4 is ipilimumab. There's many more, and there's some there's something he asked about immunosuppressants. These are stuff that we're learning in pharmacology. But if you get the question about monoclonal antibodies, he is gonna ask you the names and some immunosuppressants. And I think he asked one of my friends name 6 immunosuppressants or something, which I understand it's not there in the document. It's not there in. I think it might be in the lectures, but I'm not sure. But this is something that no one told us, but you're supposed to know this, unfortunately. So, and he failed, my colleague, unfortunately, because of this. So, know this. And one of the websites I used is Pixorize. I use Pixorize for all of these, and it's something like Sketchy, but it's much smaller videos. I think it really helps. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. This was a really, really small summary or kind of like an advice kind of thing. I really hope it helps. And if you have any questions, just uh, put it in the comments and I'll reply as soon as possible. I hope this helps again, and I'll see you soon, guys. Bye.